Gliding into the wind. Best L over D and wind. Okay, imagine this scenario. Your airplane's best glide speed is 60 knots, and you have a headwind of 60 knots. Suddenly your engine quits, and you must glide to an open field just a short distance in front of your airplane. So what airspeed do you use for this glide? Well, if you choose a glide speed of 60 knots, then you won't glide any farther than your present position over the ground. Fly at an airspeed slower than 60 knots, and you'll move backwards relative to your present position. In this example, it's only logical to glide at a speed a little faster than the airplane's best glide speed if you want to move forward from your present position relative to the ground. The fact is that when gliding into a headwind, you're better off gliding faster than the airplane's best glide speed. Now, how much faster? Well, the general rule of thumb is to add 50% of the wind speed onto the best glide speed. At least this would allow you to move forward, and hopefully this would be toward a desired landing site instead of making no forward progress at all. In our previous extreme example, we would add 30 knots onto 60 knots for a glide speed of 90 knots. Sure, at a speed above best glide speed, you'll come down at a higher descent rate, but at least you'll move forward toward the chosen field. Of course, turning downwind might increase your selection of landing sites, assuming there are no acceptable landing sites ahead of you. Now, ask yourself what happens if you're gliding with a tailwind. Clearly, gliding with the tailwind extends the glide range of the airplane. However, does it extend the time you'll spend aloft in the glide? Well, it doesn't. You'll come down just as fast when using the best glide speed, regardless of whether you're gliding into a tailwind or headwind. Now, the only thing that changes will be the glide range of the airplane in this instance. And this is why you might want to operate at a slightly slower speed than the best glide speed during an engine failure when you have a tailwind. The fact is that as the airplane slows below the best glide speed, its glide distance decreases, but its descent rate also decreases, at least up to a point called the minimum sink speed. This speed is found below the best glide speed and is approximately 10 to 15% above stall speed. Therefore, as a practical matter, if you experience engine failure and are gliding with a tailwind, it's not unreasonable to slow the airplane down slightly to decrease the rate of descent, but never slower than the minimum sink speed, of course. Yes, you'll shorten the maximum downwind glide range, but you're not flying at the best glide speed. You will, however, remain aloft a little bit longer. And just for your information, the minimum sink speed is not shown on the airspeed indicator, and you're not likely to find it in any of your airplane's POHs. You typically have to go out and do an experiment on your own to find the airplane's minimum sink speed. Now, if you're only a few thousand feet above the ground, the extra time aloft won't make much difference to you. If you are many thousands of feet above the ground, then you can possibly add a few minutes onto the time you're aloft, perhaps allowing you to make that emergency call, better plan for the off-field landing, or try to find out where your passengers hid your parachute. Okay, just kidding on that last one. That said, make sure you return to the best glide speed when you're preparing to make the landing. This places the airplane closer to 30% above stall speed, which is the speed that pilots are used to when preparing for the landing roundout and flare. Finally, make sure you land into the wind, too. From the engineer's perspective, the best glide speed is found where a tangent line beginning at the 0 airspeed index touches the power-off descent rate curve. In Block A, the best glide speed is found at 60 knots, with a 20-knot headwind. Block B, or a 20-knot tailwind. Block C, the best glide speed is found by shifting the beginning of the tangent line an amount equal to the headwind or tailwind, respectively. While adding 50% of the wind's speed applies to headwinds, there is no consistent rule of thumb to use for tailwinds. Let it be said, however, that you should never decrease your speed to less than the minimum sink speed, which would defeat the objective of remaining aloft for a longer period of time. The minimum sink speed is found at the very top of the power off glide curve in these examples.